Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Viewers, I am Dr. Abdul Jabbar Khan through Dr. Abdul Jabbar Khan official YouTube channel. Today we have with us Mr. Parvez Saeed, who has worked with the State Bank of Pakistan, has led various banks and financial institutions. He has also been the Chief of House Building Finance Corporation of Pakistan, and he has been the president of the Islamic Bank, I think. I recall that. Thank you very much, Mr. Parvez Saeed. So viewers, we are going to discuss with the question of, with the definition, question of defining riba, the difference between riba or interest or usury, whatever it is. I have got different perception altogether. During the discussion, I may be coming out with my definition and perception about the so-called Islamic banking in Pakistan. Let's start with our program with the question that I have already raised, that okay, what is the difference between riba or interest or usury? Mr. Parvez Saeed.
Thank you very much, Jabbar. I think it's very important that at the outset I must clarify something very clearly, because riba and everything that is associated to it has a religious connotation. It's a religious belief. So let me make it clear. I believe that riba is absolutely haram. There is no two ways about it. It says very, very clearly in the Quran, Ahallullahu baya wa haramur riba. No two ways about it. So that is as far as my beliefs goes, and everybody who believes that riba is haram, I am with you, I believe so. The question, or what I would like to present, is the fact that there is a big difference between riba and bank interest. And the fact of the matter is that all the rulings that apply to a certain things, the Sharia rulings, are based not on its form but on its substance. And in substance, riba and banking interest are totally different. Therefore, the rulings of riba cannot be applied to banking interest. That is my basic contention.
So the question here is, the commercial banks here in Pakistan have got have got some specialization, the exclusive names of the banks they are operating here. And other commercial banks were previously working here for more than 50, 60, 70 years. They have put up a special window known as the Islamic bank or the Islamic window, working in that conventional. My question remains, I always ask with different scholars and the experts like Mr. Parvez Saeed, you know, we in Pakistan, we don't believe that the system of the Islamic banking is pure and it doesn't have any element of riba. But that I mean that the system here in Pakistan carries a certain element of riba in the so-called Islamic economic system or the Islamic financial system. What do you say about that?
There are two aspects to it. If you take riba in the broader sense, which means any kind of anything that is based, that is morally and otherwise wrong, that's riba, whether it's financial or in any other. But in the context of banking, if we keep jumping from riba into interest, that's where the confusion is, and that's why we have these windows, and that's why we are talking about the fact that the Islamic banks are not really Islamic, and etc., etc. The fact of the matter is that, let me just give you an example, because Quran also believes in this way of communication. For example, it is like this. When I used to work for a company, a multinational that used to make cooking oil, and when I used to go to the factory, it used to be the very, very smelly. When the raw product used to come into it, was the soybean oil, raw oil, when it used to be delivered to the factory. And the first process, there's no way you could put that in your mouth, let alone even stand next to it and smell it. It was that bad. But then the process started. First they would churn it and make soap out of it, then they'll filter the product and so on and so forth. And after the process, what appears on the other end is basically well smelling, pure, neat, transparent oil, which we all use in our daily cooking, and it's very healthy. But if somebody was to take the view that because it comes from a source that was not edible and that was really very filthy. Therefore, we cannot use soybean cooking oil for our cooking. I mean, if that's the view one takes, then fine. Banking interest is also haram, just as riba. However, it's the same thing. Riba has gone through a long process of centuries of process of being refined, and it has now been refined and come to this banking interest, and the banking interest has absolutely nothing in common anymore with the riba except the form, addition on principal. That's just the form. In substance, it's totally different. Therefore, the rules that were applicable to riba cannot be applied to Islamic banking or interest based banking. Every banking is interest based banking. You can label it whatever you like, but in substance is exactly the same. Unless we accept that premises, we will always be confused. Why is this Islamic? Why are you using KIBOR? Why don't you call it Islamic interbank rating system, etc., etc.? These are just the confusions that have been created. And then, you know, a boss of mine, I worked for him in UAE, he once used to mention that problem is when a dragon is born, it's very cute, but when it grows, it takes out its tail and starts spurting fire, and it becomes very dangerous. And this is what has happened with us as well. When we were talking originally of Islamic banking, it was a cute idea, you know, in terms with religion and all that, but now it has grown, it has got a tail, and it's now throwing fire, and it's confusing the whole issue out of you know, it's like we have thrown the baby out of the bath water. There is nothing wrong with conventional banking. Riba is a different thing. Islamic banking is just, in my opinion, I hope people don't mind, it's just taking advantage of people's belief in a way that should not be taken advantage of. There is absolutely no reason. Let's understand what riba is, let's understand what banking interest is, and then try and see where what fits, but let's not mix together. You ask a question about Islamic banking, there is no such thing Islamic banking. All banks are Islamic, there is nothing wrong with that. It's a system. Systems are not Islamic or un-Islamic. There may be certain elements within the system that are not just. They need to be addressed, that's all.
Whatever that is, you know, I used to call it, my viewers, that if at all Islamic banking are doing the Islamic way, where is the question of the government of Pakistan or the Federal Sharia Court, who have not been, even the Supreme Court, they have not been able to come out with a proper proposition of the conventional interest-based banking and the Islamic or the riba-free banking. Here is the question. The question is, Mr. Parvez Saeed, what State Bank of Pakistan used to provide, or the commercial bank used to provide, you know, the every month or every day, whatever it is, you know, you the banker, the KIBOR, the Karachi interbank offered rates, like the London interbank or LIBOR, you know. People here in Pakistan are not going to believe that the system based on the Taqi-Usmani interpretation of the KIBOR and the using it through the Islamic, so-called Islamic windows, that is Islamic, people don't going to believe it. That is why, having got a big size and big magnitude of the capacity of the promotion of the strength of the Islamic banking, the funds, investment, etc., deposits, it did not have that impact or the size of the banking in the name of Islam vis-a-vis the conventional banking.
You see, the way, in my opinion, the Islamic banking is being practiced, first of all, like I mentioned earlier, it's banking is banking, it does not have religion. In any case, the way Islamic banking is being practiced is like one is trying to fit in a round peg into a square hole, and that is why you are always cutting from here, cutting from there, trying to fit it in, but it won't fit in, and that's why all these interpretations and everything, you change the name, you change the verbiage, you change the form, but it works, banking works exactly as it does even on the conventional side or the Islamic side. The working and the functions and the delivery of the banking system is exactly the same, but one banking you are convoluting it by bringing in religious concepts where they are not required and confusing the whole issue. So that is why these questions are arising. Basically, we must understand oranges and apples, na? Riba is a belief. Banking system is based on logic and reason. Logic and reason cannot explain belief, and belief cannot explain logic and reason. And if you are going to put these things together, it will always be a hodgepodge at best, and that is why it is a hodgepodge even in Pakistan, and that's why all these questions that keep coming up, because partly it relates to conventional banking and partly it relates to the other banking which they call Islamic banking, and therefore there is it's different thing. I cannot explain how an apple tastes when you are telling me the features of an orange, and similarly I cannot tell you how an orange tastes when you are telling me the features of an apple. So we must be very clear in our concepts. Orange or apple mix करेंगे तो कुछ भी नहीं बनेगा, नहीं बन रहा.
Okay, even then, my viewers, people have got the majority of the people I'm talking of, they don't consider the Islamic banking as pure Islamic. What they call it, it carries certain elements, certain components of riba in their transactions or the profits. Now, having said that, why the acceptability among the people is not that high, or the majority of the people or the consumers or the account holders believe that this is Islamic banking, and without any fear of any contradiction or belief, we should promote the Islamic banking in Pakistan, like the foreign banks like albarkah, Dubai Islamic Bank, and the Bankislami here in Pakistan, Mizan Bank, and other conventional banks have huge profit making. Even they distribute profit, less profit to the depositors and the higher profit through different transactions or mode of transactions, maraba, musharika, lease financing, rentals, etc., etc. How do you see that? Don't you see the conventional banks are making less profit and the so-called Islamic windows are making more profit?
Let me just again first of all clarify something. The reason why there is no credibility in the Islamic banking system is the fact that in substance, when you look at banking, they is the same, and all they have done basically is change the form, and the way form has been changed is to change the verbiage, the nomenclature has been changed, number one. Number two, the underlying contracts of a transaction have been changed also. But I have been a banker, I have been a user of a banker, and I have worked in every aspect of the banks indeed. And I can tell you the underlying contracts are almost transparent to the user of the banking. They are mostly interested in the functionality. How much will it cost me to do what and how convenient it is? That's all they are looking at. Now, if to differentiate one product from the other, we may have slapped religion on top of it, so that people who are motivated by religious thought will accept the fact that this banking is better than the other and it will sell better, and that's what's happening, and that's why it's taking off. But it is, in my opinion, not fair, because at the end of the day, yes, Islamic banks do offer less rate of profit to the depositor, and their loans are usually more expensive, and there are technical reasons for that. There are things and there are processes that make this Islamic banking deposits a little more cheaper for the they give you less interest than the conventional bank. There are reasons for that, but why should we do that? Why should we incur costs that are not supposed to be incurred, and why should we make people pay for their beliefs? That's not fair. I mean, the reason this differentiation is there is not required. Banking is absolutely banking. It's a science. It's an exact science. It's maths. It's 2 plus 2. 2 plus 2 will always come to 4, whether you are a Christian or a Hindu or a Jew or whatever. And we need to look at it like that. And if you look at it like that, absolutely good business. I have absolutely nothing to say about Islamic banking, because substantially it's the same as conventional banking. Sometimes it differs in forms and sometimes it differs in nomenclature, and yes, the underlying contracts are different, but that makes no difference to the user. So I mean, if you walk like a duck, you talk like a duck, you are a duck. If Islamic banking behaves like conventional banking, their products are same, they are offering you the same service, they are the same kind of banks.
So there is the question of the credibility that we had already discussed it. The people are going to accept it or not. There is a question of their belief. Majority of the people here in Pakistan consider the conventional banking as un-Islamic, and the some of the people or the account holders or the businessmen consider that the Mizan and Bankislami, Dubai Islamic, albarkah and others are doing the Islamic businesses. Where is the role? What is the role of State Bank of Pakistan? Parallel, there are two nalas for that matter. The streams are flowing. One is called the un-Islamic, one is called the Islamic. So what are the people going to believe, and why there is a confusion, and how the confusion could be removed by the State Bank measures or Government of Pakistan measures?
As far as regulating this sector, both the sectors at the same time is concerned, there is a short verse by Iqbal that says, Sajda Allah ko shaitan se yarana bhi, bol kisse apni wafa ki ajr mangega. I mean, either as a regulator, my opinion would be, and I am not a regulator and my opinion does not count, banking is banking, regulate banking. Do not regulate the religious beliefs of the people. There is no reason why a central bank, in my opinion, should have a Sharia board which will determine the kind of transactions the bank can conduct or not. It's Sharia basically means law, and it's the lawyers and the legal contracts that are enforceable in the court of law are the contracts that are acceptable. So basically, unless we clarify our thought, I mean, Jabbar mentioned that a lot of people go for Islamic banking and they prefer Islamic banking because it has been sold to them as something that is in line with their beliefs, and it has been sold to them that conventional banking is against your beliefs, and the people who have got convinced of that argument then have a preference for Islamic banking, and then they pay a cost for being a Muslim. They get loans at a higher rate, and their deposits earn them less money, and they are happy with it because they have been made to believe that this is the way you are going to succeed in the world hereafter. I doubt it very much. I think the fact of the matter is that conventional banking there is nothing wrong with it. I mean, I'll take 2 minutes, let me go back to the basic premises. And if you look at the history, you will realize, let's not go that further back. Greeks thought that the traders were thief and trading was an unacceptable profession. The god of traders and thieves of Hermes, who had these small little wings at his head because he had to be very fast. If you are a thief, you had to run very fast. After that came the Romans. They had the same belief. They believed that trading was robbery and the traders were thieves, and the god of thieves and traders was Mercury, and he used to wear very few clothes because if you are a thief and you are running away, clothes can get you caught. That was the mindset. And then Jesus Christ came, and when he went to his temple, he overturned the tables of the money changers and those who sold pigeons and said, you make this house of my Lord into a house of robbers. So basically he threw out the money lenders and he threw out the traders as being somebody not acceptable because they were both the same. Now that is the origin of how trade. But then what happens? Now if you look at, let's just now confine ourselves to the religion of the house of Ibrahim and below, and you will realize that we have just focused on the religious method on one side of the message that every prophet delivered. That was the oneness of God. He is the creator, absolutely, and all those. But if you dig a little deep, you will realize right from Hazrat Ibrahim to Hazrat Muhammad, every prophet also had a secondary message, and that secondary message was that you must measure correctly and you must weigh correctly and you must not be dishonest in your transactions. It's that process of refining the trade from something that was robbery into something that was mainstream started back then, and throughout each and every prophet had this message. So what happened that over centuries the trade practice got refined, it got changed, it got transformed, and as a result that the last prophet of God, Muhammad, was a trader. He was a very successful trader. Some of his best friends like Hazrat Abu Bakr Siddiq and Hazrat Usman, they were traders. His wife was a trader. So no longer was trade the business of robbery because it had gone through century of refinement. And then it's the same thing is the riba also is haram, there is no doubt about that, but it has gone through centuries of refinement, and now it has come to a point where it is bank interest, which is perfectly acceptable and has got nothing to do with riba except that yes, it started there, yes, it has similarity in form, but substantially is different. Just like trade, when in the times of Greeks, for example, the trader was thief and trading was unacceptable profession till it came down to a profit, when it became the prized profession. It became the profession of the prophet, the profession of the caliphs, and it was basically because of the refining process of belief that had been taking place through. So, this is the same process that riba has gone through, and it has now converted to interest. Are we now going to say, for example, because traders were considered thief in the past, so these trading activities and traders are not acceptable in our society? Do you think we can run our economy on that premises? And now we are trying to do the same thing, that interest based banking not acceptable because originally it was riba. Therefore, can you run an economy without having a system that manages the flow of financial assets within the economy efficiently? You can't do that. You have to have that. But if we are going to have this logic, you see, it's like saying that, you know, a horse cart is used to transfer passengers. Fine, but what happened to the horse cart? It got refined, it got refined, it got refined, and now after centuries it's an electric vehicle. Now, can you apply the same rules to electric vehicle that were applied to a horse carriage? You can't, because maybe they are different, they are similar in form, but they are absolutely different in substance. So, horse cannot be charged with electricity, and an electric vehicle cannot be run by putting hay in its bonnet. So, they are substantially different.
That is very valid.
You have to look at it like that, and clearly it is different. There is no such thing, in my opinion, as Islam banking. Banking is banking, and conventional banking, there is nothing wrong. There is a few aspects of riba that has crept in, and they need to be cleared out. But the banking system is banking system.
Given this proposition by Mr. Parvez Saeed, then State Bank of Pakistan and the government should look into why there is separately working different conventional banks, and why there are so-called Islamic banking or Islamic financial institutions. To me, as I used to say, Islam prohibited riba because it was the mode of exploitation. The Jews and the rich of Medina or Mecca, for that matter, the non-believers, used to provide finances to the needy on the basis of their needs and the dire needs, for that matter. They used to exploit on a very high rate. Even they used to mortgage or get possession of their properties or the lands, etc., etc. The God prohibited riba because of the exploitation. But in case of Pakistan, there are so much of high markups, interest, or the rate of interest, for that matter, in the banks, that ordinary businessmen or the people or the needy cannot afford to go that as high as they are demanding. Viewers, we are going to close our discussion today. Inshallah, we will keep on discussing with the support and help of our banking expert, Mr. Parvez Saeed. Thank you very much. Wassalam.